Hey guys, what's going on? It's Shatterpoint back with another video, and in this one we're going to be talking about Batman the Animated Series, episode Pretty Poison. Batman the Animated Series was a series done in 1992 and still stands as one of the best interpretations of the character that has ever been seen. So our story starts on a small island in Gotham Bay. There we see a woman transplanting some roses, but we can't see her face. On that same island, not too far away, we see an opening ceremony being held for a Gotham penitentiary. The penitentiary is being opened by District Attorney Harvey Dent, and it's being funded by Bruce Wayne. The scene goes to a greenhouse, where we see that woman that was transplanting roses tearing out a picture in the newspaper of Bruce Wayne and Harvey Dent opening the penitentiary. The scene then goes back to the island where the penitentiary is being opened. We now see heavy machinery digging up and plowing over plants in order to build the penitentiary. We then time skip 5 years to see the penitentiary fully built. Suddenly, a helicopter lands on the roof of the penitentiary and an inmate escapes using it. The scene then goes to the GCPD, specifically Police Commissioner James Gordon's office, where his phone is ringing. After Jim hangs up the phone, he makes his way to the exit of the GCPD abruptly. On his way to the exit, he informs the rest of the police in the GCPD that there was a breakout at the penitentiary by helicopter. The scene then goes to the helicopter flying through Gotham. The inmate in the passenger seat of the helicopter says to the pilot, "We're home free." As the helicopter is flying through the city, we see Batman on the edge of one of the buildings. Batman then grapples to the helicopter. When the inmate feels the helicopter shake from the impact, he asks the pilot, "What was that?" The pilot says, "Just some turbulence." The scene then goes to a restaurant where Harvey Dent is sitting at a table with a woman named Pamela Isley. Harvey says, "I'm starving, let's eat." Pamela picks up a rose and looks at Harvey and says, "Shouldn't we wait for your friend?" Harvey says, "Bruce? No, he's always late. He probably got hung up on business." The scenes then jump between Batman capturing the escaped inmate and Harvey and Pamela talking about Bruce for a while. When Batman finally does capture the escaped inmate, the police show up and Batman leaves. The escaped inmate then passes out from fear and then the police arrest him. While the inmate is being arrested, he keeps going on about how he saw big wings. The scene then goes to Batman driving away in the Batmobile. As he's driving away, he calls Alfred and tells him that he's running a little behind schedule. Alfred says that he's already alerted Harvey and Pamela that he's going to be late for dinner. Batman asks Alfred how the food is at the restaurant, and Alfred says, "In my humble opinion, sir, exquisite." Batman pulls into the Batcave where Alfred is waiting for him with a suit to change into. The scene then goes to the restaurant where Bruce is sitting at the table with Harvey and Pamela. The three of them are laughing, talking about old stories between Bruce and Harvey. Pamela then looks at her watch and says, "Look at the time, I have to run." Harvey says, "So soon?" And Pamela replies with, "I have an early meeting tomorrow, but you stay." "I insist. Spend some time with your crazy friend. And call me the minute you get home, Mr. District Attorney." Harvey and Pamela then kiss for an extended period of time. After they finish kissing, Harvey says, "I'll call you," and Pamela says, "Good. Nice meeting you, Bruce," and then she leaves. After she leaves, Harvey says to Bruce, "So, what do you think?" And Bruce says, "Does she have a sister?" Harvey says, "Nope, Pamela is one of a kind. That's why I asked her to marry me." Bruce then spits out his drink and says, "What?" Harvey says, "Yep, it's the page 1 headline." Harvey then tugs on his shirt, saying, "Is it getting warm in here?" Bruce says, "No, you're just flushed from the last kiss." "Harvey, you just met her last week." And Harvey says, "And I already know that she's the one." Bruce says, "Marriage is a major step, Harv. Are you sure you're not rushing this?" Harvey says, "Nope. As soon as I met Pam, love hit me right in the face." Harvey then passes out into his dessert. Bruce says, "Harvey, you've lost your mind." "Harvey? Harvey!" Bruce then rushes Harvey to the hospital. The scene then goes to Jim Gordon's office at the GCPD, where his phone is ringing. After Jim hangs up the phone, he rushes for the exit of the GCPD, informing the rest of the police there that Harvey Dent is in the hospital in a coma. The scene then goes to the hospital, where we see Bruce Wayne, Jim Gordon, and a few other cops standing outside of Harvey Dent's room. When the doctor exits Harvey's room, Jim Gordon asks him, "What is it, heart attack?" The doctor says, "No, Commissioner, he's been poisoned." Jim says to Detective Harvey Bullock, get down to that restaurant and find out who did this. Wayne, what's the name of that restaurant? Bruce says, The Rose Cafe. Jim says, The Rose Cafe. Get down there now, Bullock. Bullock leaves for the cafe, and then Jim says, I want police security here round the clock. Officer Renee Montoya says, yes sir. The scene then goes to a room in the hospital where the doctor is analyzing the poison, trying to figure out what it is. Bruce then walks into the room and says, excuse me doctor, are we talking about food poisoning here? The doctor says, I doubt it, but we're doing everything that we can. Bruce then grabs the doctor's arm and says, is Harvey going to make it? The doctor says the poison is racing through his system. If he's gonna make it, we have to find the antidote fast. The doctor then leaves the room, and Bruce takes the sample of poison that the doctor was analyzing. The scene then goes to an interrogation room at the GCPD where Detective Harvey Bullock is interrogating a chef at the restaurant. Harvey says, so what did you put in this chocolate mousse? The chef says, chocolate, sugar, eggs, cream. Harvey says, strychnine. The chef says, no strychnine, but I added a pinch of vanilla. Harvey then looks at the dishwasher of the restaurant and says to him, you know who did it, talk. The dishwasher of the restaurant then says, hey man, I just washed the dishes. The scene then goes to the Batcave where Batman is analyzing the poison at the Bat computer. Alfred is standing nearby, and Bruce says, we've isolated the toxin, Alfred. Alfred says, indeed we have, sir, and then Alfred reads the results from the Bat computer. Alfred says, it's a toxin derived from the plant called the wild thorny rose. Batman says, I'll get a sample from the Gotham Botanical Gardens. It'll help us create an antidote. Alfred then says, you can't. The wild thorny rose has been extinct for nearly 5 years, which means, and then Batman says, there's no antidote. The scene then goes to a greenhouse, where we see the woman that was transplanting roses before is cutting a rose from her plant. We still can't see her face. The scene then goes to the hospital, where Bruce is standing outside of Harvey's room. Pamela Isley then walks out of the elevator towards Bruce, saying, I came as soon as I got your call. How is he? Bruce says, we're not sure. Pamela says, I want to see him. Officer Renee Montoya, who is sitting on a bench nearby, says, sorry, no visitors. Commissioner Gordon's orders. Pamela then begins to cry, and Bruce says, come on, you just need some sleep. Let me walk you to your car. When the two of them get to Pamela's car, Pamela says, call me if there's any change. Bruce says, of course, you just get some rest. Pamela says, Harvey is lucky to have such a good friend, and then the two of them hug. And as the two are hugging, Bruce looks suspicious and then has flashbacks to when Harvey and Pamela were kissing. Pamela then says, good night, Bruce, and then gets in her car and drives off. Bruce looks suspiciously at Pamela's car as she drives off. As Bruce is driving away in his car, he calls up Alfred and tells Alfred to look up everything on Pamela Isley. Alfred says, consider it done, sir. The scene then goes to the Batcave, where Alfred is sitting at the Bat computer digging up everything that he can on Pamela Isley. Bruce walks in and says, what do you got, Alfred? Alfred says she's a research chemist for a cosmetics firm. She specializes in new fragrances. Their newest perfume is called Nightshade. The Bat computer then plays the commercial for the perfume. In the commercial, she says, it's deadly. She has a PhD in botany from Gotham University, and she has a monthly lecture series on endangered and extinct plants. Batman says, I think Harvey's engagement is off. The scene then goes to a greenhouse where we see Batman looking in through the window. Inside the greenhouse, the woman is carrying a pot of roses, and when she takes off her hat, we see that the woman was Pamela Isley. She then starts talking to her roses, saying that they've done well and that they need some rest. She says, don't worry, I won't clip off any more of your petals unless I need them. Pamela then turns out the lights and turns on some music and then goes to another room to change. Batman then enters the greenhouse, and as he's running through the greenhouse, he falls into a drop-away floor. Batman grabs onto a vine and swings out of the drop-away floor. Batman now panics, realizing that the vine he was swinging on was alive. It ties him up and pulls him towards a giant Venus flytrap. We now see Pamela Isley in the other room say to herself, what is my Venus flytrap caught this time? Pamela walks into the room, now dressed as Poison Ivy, to find Batman and the Venus flytrap struggling. She says, a little big for a fly. Pamela now turns the lights back on and says, "Batman, a late night rendezvous? To what do I owe the honor?" Batman says, "Harvey Dent." Pamela says, "Oh, the poor district attorney? I hear he's not expected to live." It's so sad, and then she starts to fake cry, and then that fake crying turns into maniacal laughter. Batman says, "Why, Isley?" And then Pamela says, "Please, Batman, call me Poison Ivy." You see, Harvey had to pay for his crime. Batman says, "What crime?" Pamela says, "Well, murder, of course. Plowing over those beautiful wildflowers for that silly little penitentiary of his. Why, these little babies would be extinct if it wasn't for me saving them from those horrible bulldozers." Poison Ivy then embraces the wild thorny roses. Poison Ivy then screams, "The blood of those flowers are on his hands." So his fate was sealed, with a kiss. Poison Ivy then puts on lipstick that was made from the poison of the wild thorny rose. She says, "And now, so is yours." The vines of the plant then restrain Batman so that Poison Ivy can kiss him. After the two kiss, Batman spits, and Poison Ivy says, "What's wrong, afraid I have cooties?" Batman continues to spit, and Poison Ivy says, "Now you've hurt my feelings. Too bad, I was gonna share the antidote with you." Poison Ivy then holds a bottle of the antidote in front of Batman's nose and says, "Lovely fragrance, don't you think? I call it Rose from the Dead." Batman then kicks Poison Ivy away, and then pulls out a knife and cuts the vines that are restraining him. Batman, now free from the Venus flytrap, lands in front of Poison Ivy, dazed from the poison. Poison Ivy screams, "Murderer," and then shoots a crossbow mounted on her wrist at him. Batman ducks, and the arrow hits the Venus flytrap. The Venus flytrap is now screaming and dying, and Poison Ivy is continuing to shoot arrows at Batman. Batman grapples to a light fixture, pulling it down. The light fixture falls into a pond, causing it to spark, and causes a fire in the room. With all of Poison Ivy's plants now burning in the greenhouse, she grabs her pot of wild thorny roses and tries to escape. A burning tree then falls down, and Batman saves Poison Ivy from being crushed by it. Batman stumbles into the drop-away floor, and he's hanging on the edge of it. Poison Ivy walks towards Batman, aims her crossbow at him, and says, "Enjoy extinction, Batman." Batman says, "I'm not going alone," and then he holds her pot of roses over the drop-away floor and says, "The bottle for the weed." Poison Ivy then drops the bottle of antidote at Batman, and Batman gives Poison Ivy back her flowers. Poison Ivy then embraces her pot of roses. After Batman takes the antidote, the two escape the burning greenhouse. The scene then goes to the hospital. The police commissioner, Detective Bullock, and Bruce are sitting at Harvey's bedside. Harvey says, "What happened?" Detective Bullock says, "You passed out into your chocolate mousse." The commissioner says, "Don't worry though, you're gonna be fine." Bruce then says to Harvey, "We're friends, right? I have to be honest with you." Harvey says, "Mm-hmm." Bruce says, "About your engagement with Pamela, I think she's wrong for you." The scene then goes to the penitentiary, where we see Pamela Isley locked up. She says, "They can bury me in the ground, as deep as they like, but I grow back. We always grow back, don't we?" And then we see that she's talking to her pot of roses. And that brings this story to an end. If you enjoyed, please leave a like, share, and subscribe. And when you do subscribe, make sure you hit the bell so you get notified whenever I do drop a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.